Hey there, this is Lindsay Parker for LPTV at Licorice Pizza Records. We're here to celebrate the work and the life of Whitney Tai. You're here basically playing your new album, your newest album, American Wasteland. Congratulations on that.
Thank you, Lindsay. It's a pleasure to be here with you today at Licorice Pizza. I am so excited to be finally performing this album in its entirety, in its fullest production.
So you've never done that before?
No, I've been playing it acoustic for a couple of years now around the scene. So it's been nice to just pull it together for a full band performance.
So two-part question. Why haven't you done this previously, and why did you pick Licorice Pizza Records as the place to do it at?
Well, I think over the last few years, because of COVID and everything, it was like we were taking whatever gigs we could get. We were playing anywhere at the time, and I was still building my band and trying to find the right chemistry of people. And then like every time I would plan a show, someone would get violently ill, or the venue would cancel, or like I would be putting together these big shows. You can ask Griffin, my drummer, later. Like he's been on board for like 2 years now. We're trying to make a show happen, and then my dad died 2 years ago, and then I had to cancel another show. So I was like, you know what is the universe really telling me right now to like maybe chill? And then like I released the record back in September, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a record release show. And then everybody was gone, no one was around. So I was like, all right, I'm doing it for my birthday. And so now I'm having a birthday show / album release
Is it
party.
your birthday today?
Monday, but it's my birthday weekend, so I'm just kind of
make it the month. Birthday month. Well, happy birthday! Thank you for celebrating here. So yeah, I guess we'll get into this. For sure, I guess I'll ask about the title, but also I know that American Wasteland has been sort of described as a concept album, which would make sense that you would want to play it front to back. But I mean, is it a concept album? And if so, what's the concept?
So American Wasteland began sort of like this subconscious journey into like my own personal trials and tribulations, dealing with abuse and narcissism and just like people in my frame and just situations in my frame that were extremely causing me like mental health issues. And so for a while I was writing this record, and I didn't even realize that while I was writing it that I was like working through circumstantial triggers and problems that were around me. And my body could feel that there were issues going on, but it didn't really know, like on the outer cortex, how to like process those yet. And as like things started to come into fuller focus, the concepts of which I was dealing with interpersonally started to connect to those the outer world. So it's like looking at things around us, like people around us could treat us like trash, they can manipulate us, they can abuse us, but it's also happening at a larger scale from corporations, from, big tech and healthcare organizations. And it's just everywhere we look, we are being reduced to a piece of waste. And so this album is really just to reclaim that sense of like purity. And the reason it's a concept album is because the concept is that we are not intoxicated by the mire. The mire is just a glaze that's over us, and it's up to us to remember who we are at the end of it. And that doesn't come without without wisdom and like sort of getting yourself dirty in the mud. So that's really how it kept evolving. And American Wasteland, the title track, was written at the end of the process of writing this album, and it sort of tied it all together because it was like our anthem song. It was like fuck you, we're waste, but we're also not waste. And it's like you can bury us deep down as you want, but we're still going to climb the fuck out. So it felt good to reclaim and tie the record together from it not just being a microcosm but a macrocosm at the same time.
So well said. I can't wait to hear American Wasteland. We'll all be like, yeah. So you mentioned COVID and things like that, but my understanding is this record was written between 2021 and 24, so I would assume like just as sort of lockdown stuff was beginning to end. But I mean obviously it was a really tumultuous time in the world. Yes. And in this country, still is, unfortunately, but also in your life. You did mention that your father passed, and my condolences on that, but that happened during this time, right?
And
other things
at
happened
the end of the record being done. So it was like everything was done. It was almost sort of like this chapter close on everything. And like my dad, he was one of my earliest musical pushers or inspirations to go into music, but he was also one of the most complicated people in my life because of how, his struggles with alcohol abuse and drugs, and how that impacted me as a child and how it caused me to go through a lot of suffering. And so like there's a song on the record called King of Wands, and at the beginning of the song there's an old voicemail that he left me where like you can hear him kind of guilt tripping me yet again in the voicemail. But I put it in there because it's like there's like a sadness. It's like my dad loved me so much, but he was like a victim of his own problems and he could never escape himself. He never worked on himself. Like I feel like our generation is the generation of working on themselves, cycle breaking, and our parents, the boomer generation, they're kind of stuck in their ways and they don't know how to like take mental health seriously or just even see that they're contributing to a problem at large. And so that affected our relationship for many years. But it also like empowered me to like never be like that and to like make sure that if I do anything in the world, that it's with love and passion and tenderness, and that I'm not going to fall back into habits that would, keep me, because he was an amazing guitar player, amazing musician, and he never saw those things through because he was, stuck in his issues. So him passing away was almost like the initial aggregator of my childhood trauma was gone. And it's like in a way, like I was really sad, but I was also in a way free because I didn't have to keep being tormented by someone who's currently in my life and still tormenting me day by day.
Were you close at the end, if you don't mind me asking, or was there closure about all that?
There was never closure, but I think there was like an unspoken understanding that my dad knew that he effed up and he just really never got a chance to reclaim our relationship. But I loved him anyway, and I showed up to like accept him as he was in those last years, because I think he was also realizing the mortality and like the finality of life, and that he's getting older and that he's got to reclaim the relationship with me somehow. But I'm fortunate that that we were amicable, but I had to keep my distance just to protect myself, because it's, as you know, and everybody in the scene knows, dealing with substance abusers is really difficult because their behaviors are extremely manipulative and narcissistic. So it's hard to reason with that when there's constant lying and so it's like, I feel like I've built up such a hard shell around myself, like armor throughout my life, because I've always had to be the parent. I've had to be the mature one. My sister's special needs, so I had to take care of her when I was a kid, and I'm taking care of her again now that he's passed. So it's like my life has been dedicated to just being the strong eldest daughter. And
you were a caretaker to your grandfather as
well. And I was a caretaker to my grandfather.
Yeah, and I understand that he has passed, correct, your grandfather? But he was sort of the one, and my condolences again. But your grandfather was sort of the one, like you said that your dad was one of your early musical inspirations. I know that there's like this fun story out there that the first thing you ever did was singing Four Non-Blondes, What's Up, which is still a very relevant song today, when you were age 7 with your dad on guitar. So he set you on that path, even if he didn't do everything right. But then it was your grandfather late in his life that sort of encouraged you to pursue your musical dream?
Yep. Well, he was very father-like to me. So like I felt like there was this like, chase your dreams, go after it. Like there was like this love and this nurturing there that I never really got. So like that nurture just like reminded me of who I was. And because I've had to be so hard for most of my childhood, like having that softness and that nurture really reminded me like that I can lay back into my feminine and be myself, and I don't have to be so guarded and like running away from what it is that I desire. And it takes time. Like I went to art school, I did architecture, I was practicing that for many years, and that also led me back to music. Like all of those things colliding reminded me that like music is my true path, and I needed to be surrounded by people who loved me in a way that was gentle and unconditional to like be able to make those choices again.
Was there a specific conversation though where your grandfather like said, hey, like don't wait, like go to LA? You weren't in LA at that time, I don't think. Or basically like go for it. Do it now.
He would say that very often. He's like, my dream is to see you perform in Madison Square Garden one day. And he's like, and he just loved when I would sing around the house. He never got to see me perform live. I was hoping that would happen before he passed. But he's the one who gave me the ability to chase my dreams, because I was in survival mode when I lived in my house. I did not have any way of accessing or having time to do something like that. And so like having the time to be an artist and to dig back into music, I was able to just rediscover my purpose. And so I think it's just his everyday slow love that allowed me to just really know what was for me.
Are there any songs on American Wasteland that are about, there's a nod to your father on the album.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any nods to your grandfather on the record?
I would say that the closest song that reminds me of my grandfather on the record would be Sequoias, because my grandfather was very gentle, and he was kind of like that gentle voice of reason, that soft listener, that funny little banter that you need to be like shooken up. And like there's a lyric in Sequoias that's like, do you see the skyway, or do you, are you distracted by the billboards far above the sun? Like it's kind of just a reminder of like, you have this beautiful world in front of you. Why are you looking at the materialisms? Focus on love, focus on nature, focus on what matters, because all that shit's going to fade. And my grandfather was that. He was like, he really cared about things. He cared about his family. He cared about us. My grandparents, both of them, they were just all about love, and they've lost all their children. So for them to even still be walking around like, statues of love, like after everything's been taken away from them, inspired me when I was young. I was like, if they can go through this shit and still choose to love and show up correctly, then that's a choice we all can make. And I'm not going to be a victim of my circumstances.
Yeah, you mentioned, I assume when you said they lost your children, you're also speaking, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but you lost your mother at a young age. That might have been something that contributed to not being in your feminine or being hard or whatever.
Yes, that definitely contributed to it. My mom was like a tough chick, and she was a businesswoman, entrepreneur, artist. And for her to go at such a young age, and while I was at a young age and my sister was a young age, it definitely changed the way I see the world and the way I approach the world. And I promised myself when I lost her that I was never going to do anything without the utmost purpose and intensity and passion. Even if I have to die for the thing that I love, like I would do it, because I don't know when my last day is, just like she didn't know hers. And my mom was very healthy. She was athletic. She was positive minded, and, she got swept away too soon. But that's why I'm like, the music for me it's everything. And it's the one thing that's saving me right now after all that shit. So
we're talking a lot about family, and some of it's obviously sad, but like you have music and art in your blood, right? I know your dad wasn't a professional musician, but like, don't you have like people in your like vaudevillians, tap dancers, all sorts of cool lineage?
Yes. My mom's grandfather was a vaudeville performer, and he was a part of the Borden's Milk Quartet. So they used to go around the whole country singing as a quartet for Borden's Milk Company. And he did many vaudeville shows. And my grandmother was a tap dancer who used to tap dance with the Marx Brothers. And so she had, this show business is in my family. But yeah, everyone's very musical. And my grandfather used to sing lots of weird songs around the house when I was a kid. I'm like, where the fuck are you getting these songs
Do you know
from?
what songs they were?
No, they were made up. He was a songwriter in his own right. He just loved making up little ditties. And I'm like, wow, these are really, really catchy. Like he had a way of making little catchy songs. So it's nice to be around that.
So why did you sort of delay a musical career? Besides, I guess what we've already talked about is maybe you had responsibilities that made it hard. But were there any other reasons why you were sort of a relatively late in life professional musician?
It was a couple of things. It's like I didn't grow up in a neighborhood where that was like, there was no community around me that was encouraging that.
Where was this?
In Yonkers, New York. That's not really, there's not a big music community there. And when I was young, I wanted to be a dancer and a figure skater. I had like many passions, but I've always sang. But I think it was like when I was working for an architecture firm, a friend of mine like kind of poked me and reminded me to go back into music. And I started working with a producer in Europe, and then my voice, like hearing my songs produced and understanding what I could do and being shown the capacity of where my music could go, like really made me kind of switch something on and go like, oh, so I can do this. Like I didn't know what was possible at the time, because I didn't have like a fruitful community around me just like showing me what I could do. So it's like really just having access. I think it's probably why schools should have access to music from a young, like my school, we did like plays every year, but it wasn't like a music program. I think I could have benefited from having a more music driven community.
But you went into architecture. You have a degree, I guess, in that. I mean, I assume you can't just make a house unless you know what you're doing, or the house will fall apart. And also design background. So, like, how does that inform what you're doing now? Because obviously you're very visual. You can get into like your videos or the photographs, even the presentation that you are on stage. Like that had to fed into how you present yourself now?
Yeah, I think architecture and music are identical as concepts. They just are applied differently, but they take the same amount of process. Like, you need to understand harmony and composition and scale, and you need to understand density and empty space. And so there's so many concepts you use when you're planning a space that you would use in a song. All the parts and pieces have to be harmonious. They need to make sure that they're not fighting each other so that each thing can shine on its own. And so, like, when I'm making songs, I see them like little spaces, little buildings that I have to configure and make everything work. And so that's from the melody to the chord structure, to everything. It all has to flow. The rhythms have to flow. So I think at the end of the day, most mediums, like whether it's art, painting, music, architecture, all of it requires the same process to arrive at a beautiful, harmonious piece of work. And it's subjective too. So that's what's fun about it. There's a million variations on what you can do.
If you put your architecture skills to use, what kind of set would you build? If skies was the limit, like you were playing Madison Square Garden or you were Lady Gaga on tour, she has a crazy set right now that's actually like looks like Roman ruins or something. Like, what would you do if you could build like an amazing set?
If I was doing my own set, because I'm like a nature buff, like I would probably recreate like an Icelandic landscape and just have maybe low-lying fog with like being a blue hour, and then maybe lots of stars and cosmos and beautiful moss strewn upon the stage. So I would really want to just recreate, and then bioluminescent objects that are just strewn about. But I'd really love it to feel magical and ethereal, and obviously the lighting would be almost as if it's in a winter like kind of wonderland or something. So I could go a million ways with it, but I'd want to keep it more organic.
You ever been to Iceland?
I haven't. It's on my bucket list.
Me too. I was about to say that. It's my number one place that I want to visit that I haven't gone to yet, because it looks like another planet from what I see. So that's really cool you mentioned that. Obviously, nature is a big, besides, this personal stuff and other stuff going on in the world, like you're a big nature, I don't know, person. I don't know what, nature buff.
Nature buff.
Big into animals.
Granola girl. I don't know.
Well, I mean, maybe people would look at you and not think granola girl because you're not listening like hippie bohemian attire at the moment. But tell me about, that's obviously a theme on this record, and definitely with the photography and the videos that you've done with Joseph Cultus.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about like the whole nature theme that goes through this record and your work in general.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it was really fun. I kind of had this vision in the beginning that I wanted to be this like modern day like wasteland Ophelia that's like drowning in this disgusting
Not like the Taylor
bog.
Swift
No.
no, she didn't kind of get who Ophelia was in that song. I'm just saying. It was a more Rapunzel story in her
That's
song.
true. That is
But
true.
anyway, go on. No dista.
Yeah, it was just, I just really wanted to portray like kind of like the glamour in the decay. That was really what the concept of the main album covers, the glamour and the decay, and how that could be a ruse for things looking like they're great, which is kind of like that American Wasteland thing of like, things aren't what they seem. We're suffering out here. We're going through a lot of shit. And you slap some latex on it, you put some nice lighting, and you put some chains, and it's like, oh, things may be okay, but it's like not, because deep beneath that latex is a body that's been soaking in dirty water from the LA River for some time. And so I think what ended up happening as we evolved the imagery was that I wanted the closing of the record, which is Sequoias, which is the bookend song, to be, she's restored, she's back in the ivy, she's pure, and she doesn't have to identify with that part of her past anymore. She's evolved and she's metamorphosized into something that even she herself could not see, because she was so entarred by like the gross shit beneath her and flowing in from all places. And I think Joey did a really good job at understanding that evolution, even just musically, because we never really discussed how that was going to take hold. I think he just absorbed these songs for so long, and he knew where it was going, that we were able to do this sort of A-B side where it's like, this is us at our lowest point where we don't know who we are, and this is us reminded again of who we are and how we're never lost. We're just, we wander down a path that we shouldn't for some time, and it's okay. The return is what's beautiful.
How would you say American Wasteland is different from your previous two records? It's like, I wouldn't say it's a folky record, but there's maybe more folk elements in it than before.
Yeah, I would say that the first two records are a little bit more electronically driven. And I've always been more of like an alternative grunge sort of artist. And I think it's taken me like a long time to like find my sound or like like I know what I love to listen to and I know what I've been influenced by, but it takes making records to like get closer and closer to who it is you are and what you have to say. Because you're also growing as these albums are happening. You're like going through phases of your own evolution. And so I would say this album is the most me. It's the most organic and rustic and folky. And I love folk music. I'm very inspired by 70s folk music, but I'm also a 90s kid. So like I love grunge and I love alternative metal. So like at the end of the day, you wash a pop sensibility over that from my 90s experience, and this is kind of what the amalgamation of this album has become. It's all my influences, it's the things I love, it's the things I want to sing and perform, all wrapped into one. And I don't feel like there's any compromises on myself in this record. I was able to have 100% creative control alongside Tom. So Tom and we were able to do this with just our hearts fully in it, and there was no ego and no fighting at all. The entire album process was so harmonious that it was amazing.
Well, since you mentioned 90s and grunge, you set me up perfectly for asking about the Alice in Chains cover that you did, Brother, because I believe there's actually a direct or indirect Alice in Chains connection in terms of one of the people that played on it.
Yes. My good friend Michael Rozon, he's a pedal steel player for Jerry Cantrell. And so him and I have worked in other capacities. Like I've recorded with him and he's produced me in the Beauty and Chaos project, which is the president of Schecter Guitars project. And so Rozon, I found out that he plays pedal steel and I was like, oh my God, dude, like you've got to get on this record. Like, and I've seen him perform live, downtown in LA, and he was incredible. And I was like, I want you to play on these songs. And so we did a session one day and it came out insane, and I just loved the outcome, and I felt like it was the organic thread that the record needed to like bring you back to some sense of like the Wild West. And I was like, I don't know, I'm not a country artist, but I am a lover of folk and Americana, and I was like, I want this album to lean in that direction more so.
So you mentioned Tom. That's Tommy Hatz, your producer. Hatz. And I'm not sure how long you've known each other or how you met, if you want to tell me about that, because it's my understanding that when you first started working together, you didn't necessarily plan on making a whole album together.
I met Tommy through Schecter Guitars as well, and he was also a Schecter artist for some time. But he started showing me some demos back in 2020, and then he wanted to do something like my song Starfish. He's like, oh, I want to see if we can kind of like create a Starfish style song. I was like, okay, I'll listen to whatever you send me. And then he sent me Perfect Storm, and that became a whole soul pop song, and it didn't even go in that direction. I was like, oh no, Tom, that's not where this song needs to go. We got to take it. He's like, oh, okay. I was like, I want a choir. I want everything. He's like, okay, this is great. And so like we ended up writing that song, and it just became what it is today. But it's funny that like from there, I was like, well, let's just keep writing and see where it goes. And I was like, and then after some point, we're like, I think this is an album. I think we're writing an album right now. And we just kept going.
Is he playing with you tonight? Is he here?
Yeah, he'll be
awesome.
Here.
That's so cool. Yeah. After all the things that you finally get to play the record together.
Well, we've been playing it together.
But not in this capacity or in this full context. Well, there's a couple other songs before I let you go so you can finish getting ready for your big party. We've talked about a few of your songs on the album, but obviously I want to ask about Rehea, because that's one of the singles, and I think it's so. I mean, obviously all the songs are important to you, but I feel like this is a particular centerpiece song.
It is. Rehea, it's funny, when I was writing this song, Tom goes to me, is this song about your mom? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'm not really sure, because I thought it was about my breakup, really, because it's like there's like a parallel to being lonely, and it's like there are some people that make you feel more lonely when you're with them than when you're alone. And it reminded me of when my mom passed away, because there was like a strange loneliness that overtakes you when you lose a parent at a young age, and it never really goes away. It's like a hole that's driven into the center of your chest, and you can't ever fill that hole. So what you do is you just try to live as deeply and passionately as possible, and like over time that hole closes, and you'll be reminded of what that feeling was. But then there's people that come back in that really make you feel more fucking lonely than you actually should feel. And it was a reminder to me that like I need to surround myself with people who never make me feel alone. And so Rehea is a broader question of like, do we belong together, Ray? Are we forced to be alone out here forever? Am I alone by my own design? Or do I get to choose whether I'm whole already? And so Rhea is one of Saturn's moons, and poetically, like, all the moons are tidally locked around a planet, so their back is always to the darkness and one is always to the light. So it's like you finally getting to see your moon from both sides. I guess that's a funny way to see. And so it's like having a full 360 understanding of like, I don't have to have my back anymore to the sun, or I don't have to have my back to the darkness anymore. I can turn around. I don't have to be locked into this position. It's my choice. I'm a quantum object in this field, and I can make the decision to feel whole again.
And then the other question, the other song I wanted to ask about was Slumber Party, because I read in one of your other interviews a quote where you said that song had saved your life. So obviously I want to know that story.
That Slumber Party is literally just a song about waking up from manipulation. So it's like a lot of people don't really know a lot about manipulative people and how they move through the world, and understanding the nuance of how like cognitive dissonance works. And Slumber Party really attacks like how we're able to know that our body is smart enough to tell us when something is wrong. So it's like, so what if we never leave the state of slumber we once believed was our reality? It's like you don't really understand how much control you have over your own mind until you're like kind of pushed to the point of no return, where you're at the ledge of the cliff and you're like, oh shit, I'm alive, I'm here, I'm breathing, I don't have to, like, I can fight back, like, but it's like being pushed to the edge of a cliff and then realizing at that final moment, like, no, I can wake up and say no and fuck you and I can leave this place. But I think we're also in a state of cognitive dissonance in many situations in our lives where we comply with things that harm us because it's a familiar feeling. We've been abused in the past, and we conflate love with abuse and think that they can be one thing, but they're not, and they should never be in one sentence together. So it's like Slumber Party is like telling you to love yourself more and just show up and just say no, and you don't have to RSVP. You can just bounce, you know.
What do they call it? The Irish goodbye?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
It's our Irish goodbye song.
Awesome. Well, obviously there was a lot to unpack with this record, and, you know, it was over the course of several years and going back into things of your childhood. I imagine it was a very healing process to make this record. What was like your biggest thing you learned about yourself or your life or your past while making this record? Now that you have some distance and, you know, it's out there in the world.
I would say that I should have been kinder to myself. I should have loved myself more. I should have realized my power and not have it usurped by certain people around me who maybe were opportunistic. But I try to implement a sense of care to the people around me, but sometimes it's at my own expense. And I think that I've learned over the years that I'm never going to sacrifice my peace ever again. And so, you know, American Wasteland is my peace. It is the one thing that saved me. It saved me as a record because it reminded me that I already have all the power I need within me, and I don't have to look elsewhere to create or build that reality. It exists in my heart and my soul already.
Yay. That's a perfect note to end the interview on. I mean, very inspiring. Before I let you go and let you perform, what else is next for you now that this album, are you going to, is this going to be a one-off? Yeah. Are you going to do more like full American Wasteland front-to-back shows?
I plan to bring the Wasteland across this fucking country. That's my next thing, is I want the Wasteland to just become a massive army that overtakes the US, Europe, South America. I want to go everywhere. So my dream this year is to take this on the road and also to keep writing more and doing more collaborations. I have more stuff I'm working on right now with Tommy. We're doing a really cool cover that we're working on. Can't spill it yet, but it's like one of my favorite things I've made. It's very Alice in Chains inspired. So, yeah.
Well, I can't wait to hear that and hear this record live. And yeah, you know, today Licorice Pizza, tomorrow the world.
Yes.
Starts here. So
It starts at Licorice Pizza.
awesome, as many things do. So thank you so much for this awesome and conversation. I'm very happy for everything that's going on with you, and happy that you graced, decide to debut the album as it should be heard right here.
Thank you, Lindsay. It's an honor to speak with you. And Licorice Pizza has a place in my heart. It's my local record shop, and I wanted it to be something in my hometown where I could make a memory. And I'm so happy I get to talk about it with you today.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk with you too. Thanks everybody for listening and for watching. And yeah, you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.